saying goodbye to one of the greatest dunkers of all time, a shocking rule change that will affect playoffs for the foreseeable future, and just a little bit of lottery drama. We got all these top stories and a recap of the 2020 NBA offseason coming up right after this. Before we get into all of that, let's look at the historic career of Vince Carter. The 2019-2020 season, of course, saw the final ride of the legendary dunker. Carter, who was drafted in 1998, made his final run with the Atlanta Hawks, a team who was not very good. Throughout his lengthy career, Carter played in 1,496 career games, carrying averages of 17 points per game, 4.3 rebounds, 3.1 assists, and 1 steal per game. Carter, though retiring without a championship ring, did give us highlights such as the greatest slam dunk competition performance ever and the greatest in-game dunk of all time in the 2000 Olympics when he jumped over 7-foot Frederick Weiss. Carter is expected to wind up in the Hall of Fame. Also retiring was Miami Heat lifer Udonis Haslem. Did you know that Udonis Haslem was still on the Heat? I didn't. I bet you didn't either. The greatest shock of the offseason came not from free agency or any sort of massive trade. It came from NBA leadership. In an overwhelming 28-2 vote, the league agreed to abolish conference seeding. Instead of a Western Conference bracket and an Eastern Conference bracket, the top 8 teams from each conference will be seeded 1 through 16 and pitted against each other from the start. There's no word on which 2 owners voted against this surprising decision, and no word on how this will impact free agency moving forward now that Kevin Durant doesn't have a weaker conference to run off to. The NBA did release details on the other proposed rule changes that were not approved, including a very controversial eliminating the foul out rule, allowing players to foul as many times as they want. However, this playoff realignment rule was the only one that got an approving vote. The NBA draft lottery brought about a few surprises as well. Chicago, Brooklyn, New York, and Detroit all had decent odds at claiming the right to draft first. Yet the Knicks had some typical New York Knicks luck and dropped down to 5th place. The Washington Wizards were the beneficiaries of this surprising luck, jumping up to 4th when they were projected to land on the 7th spot originally. Detroit, however, was not able to capitalize on the 0.5% better odds they had over the Chicago Bulls, slipping to number 2 and giving the Bulls the rights to draft Indiana State superstar Larry Bird with the 1st overall pick. Perhaps as a reaction to dropping down to number 2 in the draft, Detroit also parted ways with coach Dwayne Casey, deciding to replace him with recently fired Jazz head coach Quinn Snyder. Now let's take a look at how the NBA draft lottery picks turned out. No major surprise as Larry Bird went to the Chicago Bulls, giving some perimeter strength to a lineup including Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen. This pick also brings a massive amount of hope to a Chicago organization who's been hungering for success ever since the days of Derrick Rose. Detroit selected Maurice Cheeks 2nd overall. The West Texas A&M star had shot up in draft stock very recently, and the Pistons liked his potential fit with their current tanking efforts. The Brooklyn Nets in the 3rd spot picked up Darius Barrett from Georgetown. Barrett is a stretch 4 that the Nets hope will fit in nicely with Kyrie Irving and his close personal friend, Conspiracies. Washington went the point guard route in a bit of a shocking move, grabbing 6'5" Michael Ray Richardson from Montana. This has left fans wondering if this is the Wizards replacing John Wall or simply getting an insurance policy for the oft-injured star. While the New York Knicks could not get the wing player that they wanted in Larry Bird, they did pick up the next wing off the board, Perry Anderson of Ohio State. After them, Minnesota drafted R&B singer Lionel Richie with the 6th overall pick. San Antonio Spurs, drafting a little bit earlier than what they're used to, snagged 6'6" shooting guard Oscar Taylor out of Southern California. The Cleveland Cavaliers also went the wing route, this being a deep small forward draft class, snagging rangy 6'9" Theo Cooper. The Cavaliers hoping that Cooper develops into the best wing player they've had since whatever his name was. Golden State as well went with a small forward, picking up Karan Mack at the 9th spot out of SMU in Dallas, Texas. A slight respite from the small forward position came from the Phoenix Suns, who went with Reinaldo Pessoa of Brazil, the first international prospect off the board, but starting a bit of an international trend. Immediately after that, the Utah Jazz went to Germany and picked up 6'8" wingman Arnold Klein. Not to be outdone, the Boston Celtics also went with a foreign-born small forward, snagging Australia's Jeb Hurley, a player that Zach Harper claims doesn't exist. It took almost into the end of the lottery for a first true big man to come off the board, and my goodness, is he a big man. Arizona State's 7'2" center Connor Garnett bucks the small ball trend, but still has the best shooting resume of any big in this draft class. We will see if Hornets GM Michael Jordan continues with his great draft resume. The final lottery pick went to Portland, who snagged 6'7" power forward George Johnson out of St. John's. Portland is expecting Johnson to either learn from Carmelo Anthony or step directly into the role Anthony plays for them currently. What was predicted to be a quiet free agency actually was a quiet free agency. Big prizes Anthony Davis and Brandon Ingram explored options, but both returned to their current teams. Davis got a 4-year, $153 million deal from the LA Lakers, defending champions, and Ingram 5 years, $170 million out of the New Orleans Pelicans. The only major twist came with rebounding specialist Andre Drummond deciding to move to the Great White North. The Toronto Raptors bring him in on a 3-year deal expected to be worth about $114 million. A few other big names include Hassan Whiteside staying in Portland for $95 million over 3 years, and DeMar DeRozan surprising most by re-upping with San Antonio to the tune of 5 years, $179 million. The Lakers are thankful to retain the services of Anthony Davis, of course, because they did lose veterans Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee to free agency. The young Chicago Bulls showed out a bit in the NBA Summer League. While the Bulls did not win the Summer League, their personnel shocked most with their numbers. First overall pick Larry Bird showed his scoring and passing touch, averaging 14.5 points and 5 assists per game. However, it was Wendell Carter Jr. who really showed tremendous growth for the young Bulls, averaging 18.7 points per game and 12.7 rebounds per game in limited playing time. Chicago hoping that this is a sign of things to come for their young post player. Undrafted rookie Reed Bledsoe was second on the team in scoring with 15.8 points per game. Bledsoe hoping to secure a roster spot, but as of now remains unsigned. And finally, the 2K Hoops Summit gave us a chance to see some of the up-and-coming stars in the sport of basketball, most of which expecting to headline next year's NBA draft. The biggest name on the sheet by far was Michigan State's charismatic 6'9" point guard Earvin Magic Johnson, who drew the biggest crowds to this exhibition matchup. Johnson did show out, however, San Francisco's Bill Cartwright was the surprise star of the game. 7'1" center showed off good footwork, some great rebounding, and of course, his quirky shooting form. Magic scored 21 points, adding 5 rebounds and 7 assists to his total. Cartwright added in 13 points and 11 rebounds to notch a double-double. However, Arkansas's Sidney Moncrief scored 16 points and 3 assists with only 1 turnover in the game. Moncrief, not really a household name before this exhibition, but scouts in attendance say he's now a name to remember in the upcoming season. That'll wrap things up now for our off-season recap coverage. The Lakers open up the season as the Vegas favorites to repeat as NBA champions. Runners-up, the Milwaukee Bucks, are right behind them in the power rankings. The other LA team, the Clippers, come in as third, but the surprise team on the list by far are the Golden State Warriors. With a healthy Steph Curry and Klay Thompson back in the fold, along with new pickup Andrew Wiggins, the Warriors are fourth in the list of title favorites, hoping to reclaim the Western Conference, or whatever it is that we're going to end up calling it with this weird rule change in effect. The start of the 2020 to 2021 NBA season is just around the corner. We'll return soon with a look at the Los Angeles Lakers ring ceremony as they begin their title defense. And as well, we'll have an in-depth look at the debut game for first overall pick Chicago Bulls rookie Larry Bird. As a programming note, Let us know how quickly you would like to see us move through a season, how many different important scenarios to highlight, such as key matchups, whether or not you want to see something like a month in review type of show, or something more or less frequent. It's been a pleasure to bring you this off-season recap. Stay tuned, first episode of the 2020 to 2021 season coming very soon.